Hey guys, what's going on? James here. In this video today, we're going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL trade deadline. Will the Tampa Bay Buccaneers make a move? That is the ultimate question here on a lot of Bucs fans' minds. And first things first, hey, shout out to the new hoodie, right? I mean, salute to service. Shout out to my brother Rick for getting me this hoodie. It's pretty cool. But let's go ahead and dive into it because this is a question that is on a lot of Bucs fans' minds. Will the Bucs make a move? Should the Bucs make a move? Because right now, there's a lot of positions that Bucs fans, myself included, feel like the team can upgrade on. We're talking about wide receiver without Chris Godwin and Mike Evans for a couple more weeks. Chris Godwin for the entire season. On defense, we're talking about a lot. Defensive line, inside linebacker, cornerback, pass rusher. There's a lot of different positions that fans feel like the team can upgrade on. But will they make a move? I kind of wanted to dive into this today, give my own thoughts and opinions on it. So my initial, firstly, I guess I should say, let's talk about some of the guys who have already been moved. In the pass rush room, you've had Josh Uche get moved from the Patriots over to the Kansas City Chiefs. For the wide receiver room, you've had a lot of different high-end receivers get moved. Amari Cooper's a Buffalo Bill now. DeAndre Hopkins is a Kansas City Chief. Devontae Adams is a New York Jet. There's a lot of different guys that have been moved around lately. And there's still a lot of people who can get moved around, in my opinion, in terms of pass rushers, in terms of wide receivers, and all these different types of things, right? The first thing that I feel like is important to look at whenever you think about a potential trade is, one, salary cap. That's not an issue really for the Bucs. They have $10 million in salary cap. They can really afford to bring in just about anybody they want to bring in at this point. That is not necessarily an issue in my opinion. After that, you then look at where the team is, right? What team is willing to trade away players? What team is willing to bring in players? And you've seen with guys who have been brought in, by the way, also the Ravens traded for Deontay Johnson. That's another example. But the teams that are bringing in players are high competitive teams right now. The Kansas City Chiefs are 7-0. The Buffalo Bills, I think, only have 2 losses on the year. The Baltimore Ravens only have 2 losses on the year. Those are the types of teams who are making these types of trades right now. Doesn't necessarily fit the mold of where the Bucs are in terms of making a high marquee move, going out there and I know, just as an example, this is just an example, getting like a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby. I don't even think those players are available for trade, but you see the teams giving up like 3rd round picks, 4th round picks in these trades. They are teams that are legitimately competing for the Super Bowl right now and are a very good spot competitively. The Bucs are more towards the middle of the table right now. So making a high-end marquee move doesn't necessarily makes sense. It's also not in Jason Light's wheelhouse. This is per the Greg Allman of Fox Sports as well as Scott Smith of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The only in-season trades made in the Jason Light era was in 2020 whenever they traded with the Jets for Steve McClendon, 2016 whenever they traded away Jonathan Banks to the Detroit Lions, and in 2014 whenever they traded away Mark Barron to the LA Rams and Jonathan Casillas, where I think they traded for Jonathan Casillas or they traded him away to the New York Giants. I can't remember off the top of my head. But point being is that Jason Light's very low-key with in-season trades. And I do still feel like there's a couple of moves that could be made in the low-key move category, okay? And hey, you know, the past 2 trades have been every 4 years, 2016 to 2020, that's 4 years. Well, we're on the 4-year stretch here, so 2020 to 2024, so Jason Light might be due. There's still a couple of names that come to mind. In the wide receiver room, I think Mike Williams is a guy from the New York Jets, a team that Jason Light has dealt with recently, 4 years ago, that could possibly be an option. The Bucs still need depth at wide receiver. Mike Williams is a guy who is honestly on the outs in New York right now and could be had, I imagine, for a very cheap draft pick, be it sixth rounder, be it a seventh rounder, whatever it may be. I think that he's a guy that could be available. Like Mike Williams. I think that he is a fine wide receiver. I think that he is a guy who can still offer something to a wide receiver room. Whenever Mike Evans comes back healthy, I think that you have a wide receiver room of Mike Evans, Mike Williams, Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan. That's a very serviceable wide receiver room to have for the second half of the season, in my opinion. I would not be mad about that wide receiver room at all. But let's talk about the defensive situation, right? Because I know people are going to be like, well, you know what? Come on, man. Something's got to give here in this pass rush. And trust me, I completely agree. I've been talking about the pass rush for a long time now. What could the Bucs do in the pass rush room? Well, again, I don't think they're going to go out there and get a guy like a Myles Garrett or like a Max Crosby. But one name that I saw that was very interesting was actually Jeremy Fowler, who said, or actually, sorry, it was actually Dan Graziano who said that maybe Zadarius Smith could be a bit of an interesting option. The edge rusher from the Cleveland Browns. He is 32 years old right now. He has 5 sacks this year, guys. 5 sacks this year. 5.5 sacks in 2023. He had 10 sacks in 2022 for the Minnesota Vikings. This could be a good move, in my opinion. Yes, he is 32 years old, but as I have said, this is a guy who is a veteran edge rusher, and that's what the Bucs need, man. They need a guy who, can go out there and be a very solid edge rusher. I know that, it's like, oh, well, you might only be getting like 11, or gosh, not even 11 at this point, like half a season's worth of Zadarius Smith. But like for a 6th or 7th round pick, maybe you can bring him back for an extra year if he does pretty good and have him for his age 33 season. I would be on board with a guy like Zadarius Smith being brought in to this roster. I think that would be very interesting. Maybe a guy like Tre'Davious White, although some people may feel like he's a little bit cooked and might not fit the Buccaneer system right now, but he might be another buy low candidate. Again, Dan Graziano talks about this in a recent ESPN Plus article. He was a name that I had already been thinking about because there had been an article that had come out that the Rams were going to be considering offers on him. And look, they need help in the secondary. Tre'Davious White's a former All-Pro, former Pro Bowl cornerback, still only 29 years old. He can be another guy that I feel like can be had pretty cheaply, maybe be it for a 5th to 7th round pick. I think that would be interesting, in my opinion. I really do. I really do believe that, man. I really do believe that. There's another name like Azeez Ojulari is another name that was mentioned here in this ESPN article that could be a potential option. I don't necessarily think that's going to be a move because I think that will cost a good bit, although Azeez Ojulari hasn't necessarily done a ton. Well, actually, no, I'm lying. He has 6 sacks this year. So he's probably going to cost a lot. He's probably going to cost a lot, point being, to go out and get a guy like Azeez Ojulari. But aside from that, there's not a ton of other names that are being brought up. I know people may want a guy like Greg Newsome. Again, I think it's just going to be too expensive. Fowler does mention the Bucs as a potential match with Greg Newsome. But I don't know, man. It just seems more like Zadarius Smith could be an option from the Cleveland Browns. Jeremy Fowler does note that the Browns are open for business. So, I mean, you look at that, I'm looking more at Zadarius Smith in that Cleveland Browns locker room. I'm looking more at some more low value guys that you can get who can help out right away. Maybe it is maybe an inside linebacker, maybe like a Jordan Hicks. That would be a great trade. I'm a big Jordan Hicks guy. You add him to this middle linebacker room, him and Levante David, I think they're cooking. Those would be 2 guys that I'd be interested in from the Cleveland Browns. Hey, maybe you can get both. I don't know. But ultimately, folks, will the Bucs make a move at the NFL trade deadline? It's possible, but it's not going to be a splashy marquee move. I'm thinking guys like Jordan Hicks. I'm thinking guys like Tre'Davious White. I'm thinking guys like Zadarius Smith on the Cleveland Browns. I'm thinking guys like Mike Williams in that wide receiver room. The splashiest I think they get is like an Azeez Ojulari. If you want to trade for a pass rusher who still has loads of potential, maybe you look at it then. But I don't. If they do make a move, it's going to be low key. I've said it before. There's not going to be like players who are going to magically come in and save this season, but you can still bring in guys that will help. But given Jason Light's history of trading in season, he doesn't make splashy moves. I think that will continue here. But I still think the Bucs may make a low-key move that can help out somewhere down the line. But guys, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Do you want to see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers make a move at the NFL trade deadline? Let me know your thoughts and opinions. I'd love to hear them. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. As always, guys, I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.